don't know your story yet, so I can't wait to hear it.
I'm excited to tell you.
And we're also here with real midwife of Los Angeles, Tiffany Gallo. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So, Megan, last time we left you, I was seeing you pretty regularly through the
Hmm.
end of your pregnancy, and for the most part, you would leave and I would feel strong and happy just from having spent time with you. You're so positive.
Thank you.
And there were a handful of moments that knocked you over for a second and you
Yeah.
picked yourself right back up. But at the end, I feel like you were starting to get kind of anxious.
Yep.
You went past your due date, and you're also with a doctor who doesn't love going past 41 weeks.
Yeah.
It's on her wish list of things not to do.
Yeah.
And I love her, but that's like one
Yep.
of her comfort zones.
She's more medically inclined, of course. She's a doctor, so
Yeah.
yeah.
And even doctors just have different comfort
Right.
zones. That's hers.
Right.
So when we left you, you already passed your due date in
Mhm.
our last episode. How did things progress from there?
Hey guys, just checking in today on 39 weeks and 4 days. It's a Friday and I'm due Monday on my birthday, June 12th. And yesterday was kind of a tough day for me. Wasn't feeling really well, didn't sleep well, which really didn't help, and actually didn't sleep as well last night either, but I was just really feeling kind of restless and anxious about when our little boy is going to come, and it was kind of hard to, I didn't really have anything planned yesterday, which I found that today I needed to do something different and have some distractions. And so yesterday I ended up taking a long walk with my dog Cooper, and we took like a 4.5 mile walk and came home, and I ended up taking a 2.5 hour nap. So that I was grateful for, to be able to kind of get some rest when I can. And then I made it a point yesterday to really set something in motion today of, just scheduling a lunch with friends. I went to a spinning class this morning. I'm definitely not spinning nearly as far as I was. But it really felt good to see some familiar faces, and people were kind of blown away that I'm due in 3 days and I was on a spin bike, and it just felt good to go through the motions and break a sweat. And then I took a shower and went and met with some friends, and now I'm back home just kind of putting my feet up and going to read a book. I have been reading so many pregnancy books throughout the whole 9 months. Well, not 8 of the 9 months, 9 of the 10 months, I should say. But I really decided that this past month I'm just going to read some fun kind of mystery thriller books to keep me preoccupied and distracted. So I will check in the next couple days, and there's Cooper. And we will see. All right, keep you posted. Bye. My doctor knew that I wanted a natural unmedicated birth, and that was really important to me, and of course my ideal preference. But and for a while I thought I was going to be early, and
Well, you thought you were going to be early because you just
because
wanted to be early, or
no, I don't know. I think I had friends in my prenatal yoga class that it was all their first time being moms too, and practically all of them went early,
before the due date?
which to me was kind of not novice, but novel, because I had heard so many times that that's kind of rare for first time moms
Hmm.
to be early. So I guess I just kind of figured like I'd fall into the category
Yeah,
too.
just come before your due date.
Yeah. But that didn't happen. So, I went to the doctor and she said, okay, I wasn't dilated yet. I don't remember now. I guess it was maybe 39 weeks or
Hmm.
38 weeks when I went in. And I wasn't dilated yet. And so, but I was like 30 to 40% effaced.
Okay.
So I was like, okay, there's some movement. But she had brought up the induction, the I word.
Hmm.
And
Did she give you a specific timeline?
yeah, she said, typically she used to never go past 41 weeks, but she would give me a 41 and a half weeks. So the Wednesday Actually, the day that I went into labor was,
Look at that.
yeah, was the
She might as well
day.
give you an earlier due date. I mean,
Exactly.
cutoff date.
Yeah. But I freaked out. I totally freaked out because I had really prided, is that a word?
Sure, we'll
On
take
my,
it.
okay, thank you.
Let's
Uh,
Scrabble.
um, myself on really being relaxed and really loving pregnancy for the, except a few moments. I really embraced it and I felt pretty calm during it. And
Until that
until
moment.
that moment, and then I was like, "Oh my God, I'm under a pressure cooker and now I've got to scramble and do all of these things." So we tried everything. We tried,
Well, before we get to what you
yeah.
tried, I think when you think you're going to go early,
Mhm.
it sort of sets you up for the
Totally.
psychological fall.
Yeah.
Because if you don't go early, now it's like, I'm late and you haven't even hit your due
Yeah.
date yet. Tiffany, Megan mentioned effacement and dilation. Can you
Mhm.
share a little bit more of those? When you do in the home birth model, do you start checking at some point?
Mhm.
I typically don't start checking a mom maybe until she's 40 weeks. And there's no real reason
Mhm.
to know if they're dilating or not. But by 40 weeks, if the mom's interested, then I will definitely offer a cervical exam just to say, hey, this is what's happening with your body. But even if a mom is 1 centimeter at 38 weeks or 1 centimeter at 39 weeks, it doesn't mean that they're going to go into labor. And what that can do sometimes is set up what you mentioned, like a psychological, like a fall or failure. Like my body's not
Mhm.
doing what it should be, what I think it
Yeah.
should be doing. And that's not true. You could go from 1 centimeter to 10 in a day. So it's not giving us so much information. So being more hands off actually kind of helps the whole
And the other
situation.
side also leads to psychological failure. If there's no
Sure.
dilation like you, then you feel
Exactly.
like, oh, what's happening? It's never going to
And then I
happen for me.
held on
Exactly.
to, oh my God, okay, I'm 30 to 40% effaced. I can do it. I'm a
Yes.
woman. I'm working,
She gave you
so
something to hold on
yeah.
to. What is
Yeah.
effacement?
So effacement is the cervix actually thinning. So the cervix actually has to thin and it has to open. So effacement, we have 100% efface, which would mean it's completely what we call paper thin.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And then we have a very thick cervix, which would say, oh, you're 0% effaced, which is kind of hard to tell.
What is that? Is that like
Um,
cardstock thick? Okay.
exactly. Usually centimeters. So cervixes are different sizes as well. So
Mhm.
some are 3 centimeters, some are 4. Sometimes you'll see I get some results in an early ultrasound that they're 5 centimeters. So it just basically means that there's that thinning of that cervix to
Hmm.
that paper thin uh, you know,
Consistency.
consistency that we would like to see. And that comes with the changes usually in the dilation of the cervix as
Mhm.
well.
Are there other things? Because I hear terms like rotation and station.
That is, so rotation and station, you can't really tell what a station, I'm sorry, you can't tell the position of the baby's head with a vaginal exam unless there's some dilation and you're feeling sutures. That would be on the external part when we palpate the external part of
And
the baby.
sutures, you don't mean stitches, but like the
No,
baby's skull has
exactly. The
little
the baby's skull
areas where the
has,
bones come
yeah,
together.
which we call sutures, where there's plates of the skulls coming together that
Hmm.
we can feel in a vaginal examination when you're dilated a little
Hmm.
bit more to know how that baby's coming down into the birth canal,
I like your
right?
hand motions. It's the international sign
Yeah.
for the vaginal exam during labor. Yeah.
Exactly. So, that we can determine quite a bit on vaginal exams, but in my practice, I try to
Limit.
limit them and push them out a little bit further. So we have a mom who,
Mhm.
and honestly, we give you to 42 weeks in my practice.
Yeah.
The 41st week, we get a little bit more. We have some conversations with that baby and give it some suggestions to show up, but not really till 41 and a half weeks do we
Mhm.
start pulling out some cards to say,
Some
hey, what can we
tricks.
do to get this
Yeah.
going?
Do you do more
Um,
monitoring after
I
42, after
do.
40 weeks?
Not after 40 weeks. In the 41st week, I
Mhm.
start extra monitoring on all
Mhm.
my mamas. And
Mhm.
that means an NST and
Yeah.
a biophysical profile every couple days so we know that baby's
We
doing
did
well
that
and mom's
for
doing
the
well and we just wait.
NST. Yeah.
We just wait.
Yeah.
But not till 41 weeks.
So
Yeah.
NST is non-stress test, so
Yes.
we want to make sure that the environment for the baby is right so that growth is still continuing at a healthy pace and there's enough amniotic fluid and good movement. And if it's positive, everything looks good, then we know it's safe to go on a little bit longer.
Absolutely.
Megan, I am captivated. And when we come back, we want to find out what you did to try to get the ball rolling. And in the comments, if you went past your due date, first of all, how long did your practitioner give you? And also, what did you do to try to get your ball rolling? Join us on The Real Midwives of Los Angeles with Megan. Welcome back to The Real Midwives of Los Angeles. We're here with new mommy Megan.
Hi.
And real midwife Tiffany Gallo. And during the little break, Tiffany brought up a great point. We shouldn't even call it a due date. What percent of babies are born on their due date?
Don't know.
4.5% to 5% is the number that I saw recently, which makes 95% of babies either early or late, and 100% of mothers crazy. So
Or do exactly when they're should be due.
should be
I like
due.
that.
So
right?
I like your term guest date
Yeah.
or due window. It's really like a window of 38 to 42 weeks. That's fairly
37 to
37 to 42 weeks.
It's a 5-week span.
Is term. So anyway, you went past your guest date,
Guest date.
and you're kind of nervous and
Yeah.
sort of
Freaking out.
yeah,
Let's
I mean
just
a
say
little
it.
deflated compared to your normal
Totally.
bubbly self.
Totally.
So what did you do to get the ball rolling?
Hi guys, so I am 39 weeks and 6 days. My due date is tomorrow on Monday on my birthday, which I cannot quite believe that it's right here. So this weekend I've just been really, my husband and I, it's been so nice to have him home from work, and we've been just kind of living it up and both of us determined to really soak up these last moments of not being official parents yet. And I've been a little kind of stuffy and sore throat ish the past few days, so I have been feeling more tired lately, which you can probably see. Been, while we've been staying active and having date nights, and we went and played air hockey yesterday at the Santa Monica Pier, and we're gonna go see Wonder Woman here in just about an hour or so I can channel my Wonder Woman superhero during birth and labor. And it's getting really real of not knowing when he's gonna come. This weekend it happened that both my doula and my doctor are kind of out of town, or have had prior engagements, which we both knew about, but I've been kind of saying a prayer that this little baby boy will wait at least until tomorrow when we have our whole team back, and I feel good about that. I've definitely been having more kind of pressure, pelvic pressure, and kind of hips are bothering me. So it's been a little harder to get comfortable, but I'm still trying to be as active as I can. Went on like a 4-mile walk this morning, and now have my feet up before we go out to see the movie, and just trying to stay positive and really believe that he is gonna come when he's ready, and just trust and surrender to this mommyhood birth process. We have a doctor's appointment tomorrow. I'll keep you guys updated how that goes, and I'll talk soon. Okay, bye.
So we did everything. We had sex. We went to the valley and had the salad.
The coyote salad.
The salad.
Yeah. How does it taste?
I mean, it was good, but
It was okay.
It was just like, why did I sit in traffic for an hour?
For the salad.
Yeah.
Postmates.
Yep.
Yeah, next time.
Yep. Yeah, we were on the way there, and I was actually having some contractions, and I was like, okay, maybe we don't even need the salad. And I had my husband switch places, and he started driving, but it was still a couple days away. But that's okay.
Even with the salad.
Even with the salad. But we tried it, right?
Okay.
At that point,
It's an adventure. Did you take pictures?
Yep, we
All
did.
right, there we go. We'll
Yeah.
put them up.
Yep. Spicy food. We did took evening primrose oil, acupuncture. Orally and vaginally.
Okay.
Did both.
Acupuncture.
Acupuncture. Saw you.
Yeah.
Did
We did some digging.
We did.
We dug in
I
deep.
know.
I don't know if you were sore afterwards, but I was.
I was so
I
sore.
was sore.
I think I came in and I was like, "All right, Dr. B, I need your like 100%." Even
Because
though
you
you
have
always
those
give me
monster
100%,
hip
but
flexors that were just like they were. I also work on professional football players,
yeah.
and so like,
Are you comparing me to a football
well, I'm
player,
saying
Dr.
I
B?
could do in my
good
office.
way?
I could do 2 football players a day or like 12 mommies a day, but only 6 Megans a day.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
Yeah.
What else? I feel like we tried spicy food. I was talking to him a lot, trying to really say like, okay, let's get things going. And I think it was finally, I was pretty content being pregnant until that last week where I was uncomfortable. I was tired,
Physically
tired, emotionally just exhausted already, just kind of not knowing and really trying to like, okay, I got to give it up and like kind of let go of surrender.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the hardest one.
Yeah. And
Was sex for you just to get the baby out?
but initially, yes. And then it was, I mean, it was great. Like initially I wasn't, it was a challenge for me because I felt big and it was awkward and everything. But then it was an interesting time because it hit me like, this is like the finite time of after the baby comes, we're always going to be parents. Like no matter how old he is, our future kids will be like, we're always parents. And this is the only time where it's just going to be me and him.
Last chance workout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a really sweet time as well as awkward sometimes
Sweet
too.
and awkward.
I mean, it was really special though. I felt like we got a lot closer, which, I mean,
To each other.
yeah,
You
to
bonded.
each other.
Calm before the storm.
Yeah.
Tiffany, are those the things that you would recommend after someone's past due? Needing to get things moving?
Sure. On the topic of sex, absolutely. But, I really encourage the whole pregnancy. Intimacy is really important, whether or not it's just sex or not, but intimacy is so important.
Right.
But during that time when you're trying to get things going, sex is really helpful. The semen releases some prostaglandins that can help stimulate some hormone changes to get labor started. So it's definitely on the list. We also have our moms eat dates. I was going to ask you, did you do the dates?
Yes, thank you. I did do that.
Every day.
You also had dates.
Yeah.
What is it about dates?
There's a great study out there, and it's
dates?
working. My mom's cervixes are just opening.
Really? With the dates?
It's about 6 dates. Who are you going on the date with?
Well, that's what I
eating
thought. It
dates.
was a joke. I thought it started.
It works.
I thought it started by somebody miscommunicating. Oh, the doctor said we should go on a date, meaning to have sex. But then it was, and she's like, "Well, if one date is good, we'll have 2 dates, and
And then we'll have 6.
and 6
Yeah.
and 6."
I
and
really
sex.
don't know how they figured out dates soften cervix,
Right.
but it's really interesting, but it really works. So I would recommend that.
Do you? Nobody inserts them, do they?
I hope not.
Okay, I'm just saying. Because people do garlic
we
for the.
recommend, we recommend evening primrose oil either orally or you can do that vaginally. It also works as a prostaglandin to help soften the cervix. Chiropractic care, acupuncture, all those things that you've mentioned. But you can also just be very patient and wait, and just let things happen naturally.
That's the hardest one.
Yeah.
It is.
Well, did any of those feel like they were more helpful than others?
I think letting go and just like really kind of saying, okay, baby, when Tristan, now I can say his name. We weren't sharing his name before, but okay, Tristan, like mommy and daddy are ready to meet you.
Were you calling him Tristan before he was born?
We were. My husband and I were at
But
home.
not telling anybody else.
Not telling anyone. Because we got pregnant on our honeymoon and it was just like super quick.
I remember. It was all very fast.
Yeah. And so it was just kind of like our thing to hold on to and kind of cherish ourselves. So we would, practice at home, like, okay, what does Tristan want for dinner? Just like using it to make sure we.
And neither one of you slipped?
No.
Oh, that's really good. I would slip
That's
all
impressive.
the time.
Yeah. I can't believe we did
I also have all these couples where one knows the gender and one doesn't know the gender. I couldn't do that.
Oh no, we knew.
Oh,
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Did your care provider offer to give you a membrane sweep to maybe get
Yes,
things
and
going?
thank you again.
Yeah.
What would I do without you right now? My brain is not working. She did that actually at
Right.
at the last appointment.
Okay.
So
she did the membrane sweep?
yeah,
Hmm.
What is that like? What is it and what does it feel like?
painful.
Yeah, it could be kind of
It's not,
painful.
yeah.
It's not on
And
my
I think I
bucket
was just
list.
nervous too. I definitely was very uptight because it was like, okay, pass your due date, induction next Wednesday. Do you want to? And she wasn't, I'm being kind of crass right now, but she was really lovely about all of it. But
Hmm.
I was just so kind of, oh my gosh, let's get things going. Okay. And do it. And so I went into it probably pretty tense, which didn't help.
What is
Right.
a membrane sweep?
It includes having a vaginal exam and your care provider going through and sticking 1 to 2 fingers through the cervix, if possible. If the cervix is thin enough, being able to get 1 to 2 fingers through the cervix, and you literally are making a sweeping motion around the other side. So the interior os is what we call it of the cervix. So you are kind of aggravating the amniotic sac and stretching the amniotic sac from the uterine lining, and it can stimulate labor. It can start contractions. It can kind of aggravate the area a bit, and it can be very effective.
Is it always painful?
I've never had a mom who said it was comfortable.
Right. Nobody walks into Burke Williams and asks for it,
Yeah.
but
You know
it's
what? No. We could
it's
put it on the list
on the menu.
the spa menu.
Yeah.
No.
So, all right, we're going to come back and find out what happened
Okay.
after you had your membrane sweep.
Okay.
Don't forget to subscribe. You don't want to miss what comes next on The Real Midwives of Los Angeles. Welcome back to The Real Midwives of Los Angeles. We're here with Megan and Tiffany Gallo. Megan, last we saw you're getting frustrated and trying everything under the sun, pretty much everything I've ever heard of, to try to get your labor started and get your baby earthside.
Yeah.
The last one we spoke about was going to your doctor's office and having your membrane swept, and it was intense for you, and you were also just emotionally not excited about it.
Right.
What happened? Was that on your due date? That was a week past your due date.
That was about, I think, 39 weeks.
Oh, that is
maybe.
before you even
Yeah,
hit
it was
your
early.
guest date.
I think maybe it was 40 weeks because yeah, it was my 40 weeks because then
Because
she
you
gave
had
me
1 more week.
Yeah, she gave me 1.5 more weeks.
So as you can see, as of 40 weeks and 2 days, I am still here and still trucking along. And so far this week, I have learned a couple of really important lessons. The first being, sometimes I wish I were an elephant or another mammal, and I'll explain that in a second. And 2, there's nothing better than laughter and just like a gut belly laughter. So I'll start off by kind of catching you guys up on my doctor's appointment that I had on Monday, which was my 40 weeks. I got checked, a cervical check, and I was told that I'm not dilated yet, but my cervix is like 30 to 40% effaced, which is good, and I'm holding on to that. My doctor did bring up the I word, the induction word of being a week from today, actually, Wednesday, so a week and a half after 40 weeks, would kind of be the last day that she would let me go. And that really, really threw me for kind of a panic and fear, because that's something that I really don't want, ideally. And I'd really like to go the natural route. So I am having a non-stress test at the hospital tomorrow to just make sure the placenta is okay and the baby's heartbeat is okay and everything's still working properly, to give us a few more days. But needless to say, it's been, I've felt this pressure of, oh my gosh, I'm at 40 weeks and somehow I've done something wrong, or something's not working right. And I know that's not the case. My body is doing just fine and has grown this baby boy beautifully so far, and it's been a relatively really easy pregnancy, and I've really enjoyed my pregnancy. But anyway, so my husband and I are working on all of these natural alternatives to try to get things going. And I'm going to an acupuncture appointment today, and back to the elephant. I would rather be an elephant. Sometimes yesterday I was seeing Dr. Berlin and for the chiropractor appointment, and he reminded me that when mammals such as elephants or giraffes go past their due date, they're not induced. Everyone kind of waits for them. They're the ones that are still in charge and control over the bodies, and so everyone just kind of has to wait till nature takes its course. So for me, I started laughing when he said that yesterday, and I just said, God, I wish I were an elephant sometimes, because I think that would be a lot simpler. So I'm going to try to take that mindset of just letting Mother Nature take its course, and hold on to that. And secondly, laughter is so healing. I called my doula Alyssa after the appointment on Monday kind of in a freak out mode, and she prescribed me to go laugh and to go find something funny. And so I ended up watching the Dave Chappelle show and laughed my ass off last night, and actually watched it twice once my husband got home from work. I rewatched it again with him. So and that really got me in the moment. So anyway, I will continue to keep you guys updated and talk to you soon. Okay, bye.
She also wanted me to do stress tests.
Non-stress tests. But they are a little stressful.
They're a little stressful, yeah. So non-stress tests. So we did 3 of those.
Every few days.
Every few days.
And we've talked about on here before how a non-stress test is basically just checking out the baby and your placenta and making sure everything's working the way it's supposed to, so it's safe to keep going.
Yep.
And they turned out good because you kept going.
Yep. Yeah, they turned out great. The third one, they kept me a little longer at the hospital because Tristan's heart rate was kind of up, and they said, usually they're trying to get the babies awake, where he was just super active
sort of
throughout pregnancy.
Mad at your doctor.
Yeah, exactly.
Protesting.
Yeah. So what happened was, though, they tried to schedule the induction, and there wasn't a time available.
Just in his defense, he might have been very awake because you'd been having a lot of sex and spicy food and salad and dates and evening primrose oil and membrane stripping.
Yeah, it's
I'm just saying, it'd be hard to sleep through that.
It would be.
Right. Okay, back to you.
So they tried to schedule the induction, but I guess there wasn't. I still don't know if there wasn't availability that day, the day that I actually went into labor, or my doctor said that she knew how much I wanted a natural unmedicated birth, and she knew how important that was to me. And as long as myself and Tristan were healthy, she was okay and willing to extend it to 2 weeks.
To 42 weeks.
To 42 weeks.
Yeah, it actually sounds like her. I know her well, and I work with her, and she's just very full of heart.
Yeah.
And I believe in my heart of hearts, the 41-week cutoff is just because she thinks this was the best for you.
Yeah.
And so and you're also so powerful in the way you present yourself. It would not surprise me at all if she just said, in this case, you're looking good, the baby looks good, let's give you another week.
And she said that after, I know we'll get to it, but after, I delivered him, she was like, I don't know if I've ever done that.
It's out of her comfort zone.
And it actually makes me teary-eyed because it was just so validating of her meeting me where I was, and what I really wanted. And that was huge for me.
And also you saying very clearly, this is what I want.
I was clear about it.
Yeah.
I was definitely.
It's one of your strong points.
Yeah.
So on your 41 week,
Yeah.
you go into labor. How does labor start for you?
So we, crazy enough, we started, it was about 8 o'clock at night. I went to yoga earlier that day, and about 3 moms and I sat in. They do like at the end of the prenatal yoga, like the moms who are supposed to deliver
Yes.
sit in the center, and like all the moms go around and like give them kind of a blessing for the birth. And this was my second time in the center because I had already been there.
You're
like,
late.
Because I was late. And so came home. I was tired. We were both tired. My husband and I were both tired, and like at 8 o'clock, and we were like, let's just go to bed. Like, let's just, might
8
as
p.m.
well. 8
Wow.
p.m., which is odd.
Yeah. Well, if you're not retired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you go to bed, and I just can't sleep. I'm starting to feel cramps, what I think are cramps. I mean, I knew they were contractions, but they were longer. And it was more kind of cramping and kind of intense.
Did you feel it in the front?
In the
back?
front and the back
Both.
and my lower back. And I was like, okay, let's not overreact. Ron was asleep in like 2 minutes.
Right.
I was like, in bed kind of tossing. And I was like, all right, Megan, like just totally talking to myself in my head of like, all right, you can do this, but like, we still got a couple days, right? Like we don't know. And I got up, went to the bathroom, walked around, went back to bed, laid down, and it was more intense when I laid down. And I was like, okay, I gotta get moving.
Was it waves?
It was waves. It was about every 5 minutes.
Oh, you were timing them.
In my head. I
Okay.
like didn't let myself
Was your
time
head
it.
accurate? Because like in my head, 5 minutes could be like an hour. I'm just wondering.
I don't know. I don't know.
It felt like every 5 minutes.
It turned out I was accurate
You were
because
right.
when my husband started timing, he was like, "Oh my God."
So you feel like your labor started every 5 minutes?
Yeah. And it was
Wow. And strong.
yeah, strong. And when we went to the non-stress test the day before, the nurses were like, "Are you uncomfortable? Are you in pain?" And I was like, "I'm not in pain, but I am having stronger contractions than I had been." But
Were they asking you because of the way you presented,
because of how
or they
like
saw
the heart
them
rate.
on the?
Yeah, and
They saw it on
they
the
saw
monitor.
them.
I see.
And I was like, I'm not in pain. I'm okay. But so then I ended up calling. They wouldn't subside. So I ended up calling Alyssa,
My wife, your doula.
wife. Amazing wife and doula. And I was like, Alyssa, I started crying because I said, I think I'm overwhelmed. I think something's happening, but I'm not sure. It's going to make me cry. I don't know. This is my first time. And she was like, okay, well, if it is, how far apart are they? And I told her that I hadn't officially timed, but I thought it was about 5 minutes or so. And she was like, okay, well, where's Ron? And I was like fast asleep. So she was like, okay, go wake him up, have him draw you a bath. Because if it is the real thing, like we would love for you to be able to get a full night's sleep before and try to relax your body. So that's what I did. I went in, woke him up. Because I had been up for about an hour, like by kind of doing my thing. And,
Yeah.
So he ran me a bath, and little did I know at that point that Alyssa, I guess, immediately texted Ron, and they were in communication.
Oh, she's sneaky.
Thank God, because she said, okay, well, we'll be in touch. And I thought, I don't know how I'm going to be in touch right now.
I'm gonna be in the bath. I don't know.
It's...
I have a couple of questions for Tiffany based
Yeah.
on your experience. When labor starts, does contractions always start before water breaking? Does sometimes water break first? And when contractions start first, is there a normal to how they start?
No, there's no normal.
There is no normal.
There is no textbook with birth. There just isn't. Water breaking can happen at any time. It can happen before you go into labor, early labor, active labor. Can break when you're pushing. Babies can even be born in their bag of amniotic
I've seen
fluid.
it twice.
I have too.
That's amazing.
It's such a beautiful
So
birth.
cool.
So there's no rules, and that's what's so beautiful because every birth is just individual in its own way and unique, right? So that's why we always want to hear birth stories because they're always going to be different.
Everyone's different.
Everybody.
You were a doula before you were a midwife.
Yes, I was.
And when you get those calls, like the one Megan placed, how do you feel them? I mean, what are you looking for? And at what point is it for you? I think doulas are all different as well, but what point as a doula do you start to head over?
As a doula, right around that point, around that the 5-1-1 rule,
Meaning
is
contractions.
yes. Do you want me to explain that?
Yeah.
The contractions are coming every 5 minutes. They're lasting about a minute long, and that's been happening for an hour. If I have families birthing with me, then I either join them or they come to the birth center at 4-1-1. So the same pattern. They're contracting every 4 minutes, the contractions lasting a minute, and that's been happening for about an hour.
And also in Los Angeles, if you're not sure which can to put your garbage in, you can call 311.
Yes,
But that's a whole separate
absolutely.
issue.
Yeah. And you know what? And sometimes moms are contracting every 5 minutes, right out the gate, and they're not very dilated. So, and we really don't know until we can do an exam and evaluate what's going on at that time.
Right.
All right. Things are heating up for you. We can't wait to hear what happens next. You're going to have to join us on the next episode with Megan on the Real Midwives of Los Angeles. Welcome back to the Real Midwives of Los Angeles. We are here with Megan midway through her birth story. I don't even know. It could be just the first quarter of your birth story. And Real Midwife of Los Angeles, Tiffany Gallo. Thanks for joining us. So, Megan, you call my wife, who is your doula, and you're having contractions, not just in your mind, verified, 5 minutes apart, lasting for about a minute. Is that right? And you hop in a bath.
Hop in a bath for probably, I think, like about 6 hours.
You stayed in the
I
bath?
stayed in the bath for
Ooh.
about 6 hours.
So it must have felt really good in there. No?
It helped.
Okay.
It helped. It was easier in the bath than out of the bath. I'll put
Because
it
of the
that way.
water, because of the
Because
heat.
the warmth of the water, just I think there was weight off me, right? Like I wasn't standing up. I was kind of lying down in the bathtub. We put music on,
Oils?
I don't think oils at that point. We
not
had
yet.
oils in labor, but not at that point.
And so Ron's awake. You said
Ron's
we.
awake.
Okay.
Yeah, Ron was with me the whole time. Going to get water, going to get vitamin water, going to, our dog was there. He was laying, in between Ron put like just some pillows on the floor. So he was like sitting up, and then I would try to relax in between the contractions. And so he would kind of lay down, and then I'd, start moaning and, other sounds of just kind of, it was getting intense. It was getting anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes apart, and that wasn't letting up. And we kept saying, which you kind of mentioned, like, wait a minute, the books say
And you read every book.
I read every book. So I knew, I thought I knew, what could happen, which wasn't happening, of like, it should start out at, maybe
further
10
apart.
minutes
Yeah.
and, not as intense, but this is really intense and it's not getting any less intense. And I was having a lot of back pain, and with my reading, I was like, maybe he's posterior, and this isn't, maybe this is why it's intense.
Was it back pain during your surges, during your contractions?
Yeah.
So you were feeling it in your lower back?
My lower back. And,
as well as your belly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so I just, it's all kind of a blur, frankly, because I tried to get out of the bath, I'd go to the bathroom, I'd kind of walk. At one point, I think I got back in bed and laid on my side, and that intensified. And I said, hell no, get me out of this bed, get me back in the water. And so I think around 2:30 or 3, I was like, we got to call Alyssa. Like, this is,
I heard the call.
We're in labor. Like, I know, like, something, this is not like false alarm.
Yeah.
And so he called Alyssa, and you heard the call.
I heard it come in, yeah.
Yep.
I just roll over and go back to bed.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Yeah. So, so she came over, she got over there, I think around 3:30. And, I had wanted my mom to come out. She's in Nashville, and I wanted my mom to be at the hospital, ideally, and I was like, we got to call my mom. And I guess based on the moans that I was, letting out when Alyssa walked in the door, she immediately told Ron, like, call her mom,
It's
and
mom
like,
time.
let's get a flight, you know? So, we stayed in the bath. Alyssa checked in with me. We stayed in the bath. We got out of the bath. And we ended up going on a walk.
How'd that feel?
It was
Outside?
outside. First, we stayed in the house because our bedroom is on the second floor, so we walked down the stairs. We got on the exercise ball, tried to, labor that way, walked on the patio some, and then this was now probably around 8 a.m. that she was like, do you want to, we live right by the water and the ocean, and like, do you want to go walk, change of scenery? It's like, okay. I didn't say it like that, but
Okay.
yeah. So, and she really helped me like kind of go low, of tone wise, and I wanted to kind of clench up, and she was all about like loosening my jaw, which I was, had done reading, which I just like Ina May's childbirth,
Guide to Childbirth, yeah.
Guide to Childbirth was like, I was like, I remember that. Okay, loosen up. Like that loosens everything down there. And
Yeah.
so that actually, like all the reading was pretty awesome because I would have kind of these flashes of like, oh yeah,
Little tips
I
are
know
popping
that.
up in your mind.
I remember that,
It's like Nick at Night pop-up.
Yeah, yeah. So we went on a walk, Ron, Alyssa, and I, and around like 4 or 5 block walk, blocks around our house. And Alyssa was like, I have never actually had anyone walk that far in any birth, second, third, fourth time mom, like your strength. Because at this point I was exhausted. I hadn't gotten any sleep. I was getting scared. I didn't know how much more I could go on, where I was centimeter wise, if I was stuck at 1 centimeter, if I was dilated, if I at all. So she was like, you know how to do the contractions. There's no, there's clearly you're strong. We know that, like I've never experienced that, which felt validating again of like, okay, I'm really working hard here.
Yeah.
And it was awesome to see the real waves, not only the waves in my body, but like the ocean waves. Cause I was like, when I had been going on walks with my dog when I was pregnant, a lot of the times I would meditate about the waves of the ocean of like, okay, that's like a contraction, and anytime. So it was very powerful
to be looking at the metaphor.
To be looking at the metaphor and being in the metaphor,
right.
like being in it.
So that seems surreal.
Yeah, it was really beautiful in that way. So we got back and it was just getting more intense. I think it was about like every 3 minutes or so, 4
311, 3 to 411.
Yeah. So, we called my doctor to just get her take on what was going on, and she knew my wishes, but she was also like, she can go to the hospital if she wants to get relief, but she also could take a Benadryl, see if that kind of helps. Well, Benadryl? I mean, it didn't do anything.
Well, it didn't. You took it?
I took it.
Oh, it didn't make you sleepy?
No.
You're already sleepy.
No. Yeah. And so.
But it didn't help you settle down.
But I was getting emotional, and I was getting really like, okay, I think I've labored long enough. I'm kind of ready. I need relief. And which was big for me because I so wanted natural, but I really worked on like the flexibility. You didn't know where you were. Yeah. I was really working on my flexibility of like, if I want that, but if I go in rigid, I'm not going to achieve that. I know that. I know myself. I'll kind of tense up. So like, let's be open to possibilities. But even though I really want unmedicated. But at that point, I was like, I'm ready to go to the hospital.
So you went?
We went.
All right. I'm going to find out what happens there in a second. But I do want some feedback from Tiffany, because you've been both a doula and a midwife. And I could never be a midwife because there's so much responsibility on you guys. I don't know how you do it. Like, as a doula, it's like, you know what? There's somebody else who's ultimately responsible for everything.
Right.
As a midwife, you have like top responsibility. You really got to be on your game in a
Yes.
totally different way. But in the earlier parts of labor, like 511,
Uh-huh.
where Megan started, what are some of the coping techniques that help people get through, especially if they want to? I mean, it seems like there's two different things. There's sort of the physical intensity and then the emotional intensity.
I think Megan did everything that she should have been doing. And the water, it's just such a wonderful place to spend time in labor. Water birth in general is it's just beautiful in my opinion. But we call getting in the water your aquadural instead of the epidural. I mean, it definitely cuts out, I'd say, 40 to 50% of the discomfort, and the buoyancy feels
helps.
great and it's soothing. And I always use the idea of, do you ever get into a bath or shower and go, oh my gosh, this feels so horrible? No, you always go, oh my gosh, I feel so good. So when you're in labor, it just does that as well, and it intensifies even more so. But, moving to the 311, hearing your story right now, I'm like, ooh, like, yeah, you should just go to the hospital. You're 311, and are you transitioning? Because you're getting emotional. So I'm really excited to hear, how that progressed
Yeah,
from
I'm
there.
excited to hear it too. And you're going to have to join us for the next episode with Megan on the Real Midwives of Los Angeles. Welcome back to the Real Midwives of Los Angeles. We're here with Megan and Tiffany Gallo from Pure Births.
Hey.
So, you started your labor at 511. Hopped in the tub, hop out of the tub. Dog comes to pay a little visit to you. My wife comes over, who's your doula, and you guys do all sorts of amazing things to help keep you calm and relaxed and progressing forward. And you get to like roughly 311, and you head over to your hospital.
Yep. So, at that point, I was kind of at peace with, all right, we'll see, because not knowing, until they checked me where I was, I was kind of at peace of like, all right, I'm going to get relief. I'm okay if, depending on what they tell me, I'm okay with getting relief. I'm not going to feel like I failed, which is kind of my, initially mindset. If I didn't do natural, that was kind of my, where I was. That I was
failure?
Yeah.
Where did that come from though? I mean,
I think,
not knowing what it was going to be like.
I think like some of the reading I had done of like, knowing that, babies that are delivered naturally are more alert. They're not affected by the drugs. They're like less intervention, right? Like my fear was if I get to the hospital too early and I get interventions, that it'll lead to
More interventions.
And that's what I didn't want.
So for you didn't want it for your baby.
Yeah.
You didn't want the downside of interventions for your baby.
Or myself.
Or
frankly.
yourself.
Yeah. So, we go down to the car and Alyssa's like, Megan, look at me. I'm like, yes, okay. Again, not like that, but I was kind of like staring at the floor. She was like, you're strong. She was like, no, look me in the eye. And she's like, you're strong. You're powerful. You're going to go meet your baby at the hospital. And, you're going to go meet Tristan. And, that was my mantra for the 10-minute drive. Ron was driving. I was in the front seat and I was like, okay, I'm strong. I'm not sick. I'm going to the hospital to meet our son. I'm going to the hospital to meet our baby boy, Tristan. I can't wait to meet you, Tristan. And I was talking the entire time, because hospitals, as we know from earlier are pretty challenging places for me and kind of traumatic places. So it was extremely important to like own and claim my space, not only for myself but for my baby, for our family. And so we got to the hospital and thank you. We got to the hospital and they immediately like wheel a wheelchair up, and I'm like, hell no. I'm walking in to this place. And I was like, I walked 5 blocks before. I'm walking into this place, and the look on the woman's face, because I was moaning, I was, making sounds that I never thought would come out of me. And people were around, but it was like, so the most focused I've ever been, and determined to own this experience, and so she was like, are you sure? A couple times you don't want the wheelchair, and I was like, no. Alyssa was like, nope, we're good. And I said, no, I don't want it. So we got up to the floor, and the nurses recognized me from the non-stress test like the day before. And they were like, all right, let's go to this room. So we walk in, and they're like, okay, we're gonna, check you. And this amazing nurse, Tracy, she was pretty angelic from like when the time she just walked in, and Alyssa recognized her from a previous birth, and they had a good experience. So super, like, I totally trusted Alyssa, and I was like, okay, we're good. These are good people. Like we're good. And so she was like, okay, sweetie, I telling me everything. And she brought up, the epidural, and, if I wanted relief, and I was like, I want to know how far I am. And so she checked me, and I was 5 centimeters, and it was like total game face of
For that, where did you think you might be?
I had no idea.
So was 5 relieving to you or
It was
frustrating
so
to you?
relieving.
Oh, okay.
It was
You thought you
so
might be
relieving.
dilating, not at all.
Yeah, like,
Okay.
I didn't know.
Halfway there.
Halfway there. And
The
that's
cervix
what I
is
said.
half full.
I said, I'm halfway there. I did it. Like 12 hours. I did it. Okay, let's do this. Like, screw the epidural. Like, we're game on. Like,
Nice.
we're
Second
doing
wind.
it. Yeah. And because Alyssa was like, you're going to get a second, hopefully we'll get a second win. And I was like, I didn't really believe her at that point. But
you got it.
But I did it. And so, we did intermittent monitoring, because I didn't want to be, hooked up. I wanted to be able to walk around. Although, oddly enough, I seem to be most comfortable sitting up in bed with Ron pressing his hands on my back
Oh, you're still having the back contractions?
the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And that,
When they checked you, could they see if the baby was posterior? They didn't tell
if
you.
they did, they didn't tell me, and I don't think we knew. But in the back of my mind, I was like, this is just, it feels weird. Like something doesn't seem like I should be having all of this
Intensity in your back.
in my back.
Yeah.
But we used the birth ball.
You brought your own, or they had one?
They had one.
Okay.
Yeah, we had one at home.
Did they have showers there, right?
They have showers. They don't have tubs. But I think at that point I was kind of like over the
out?
water.
Yeah, pruny.
Yeah, I was just like, okay, I was just so focused on, I mean, it was such like an elation of like, okay, my hard work is paid off. I'm halfway there. I can do this. Like, I've made it halfway.
Now, for you, you're in the hospital
Yeah.
now. And we had talked about, this is one of the things that worried you, because when you went there, you got all clammy and nervous. Are you, like, once you find out you're 5 centimeters, is that behind you now?
Yeah. Like, I was just totally present. Like, it was a great experience, which is so healing for me on so many levels of, this was a joyous occasion, as like uncomfortable as it was physically.
Mm-hmm.
It was, each contraction was one step closer to meeting our son.
Mm-hmm.
And the nurses, I think, were very, I mean, I feel a little weird saying this about myself, but they told me they were totally moved by me walking in. And they said, we see a lot of people coming in and saying like, oh, I want natural childbirth. But Tracy said, we kind of don't believe them unless they have the focus and the intention and the just the not desire, I guess, intention and determination of doing that you have. And so that was, again, so validating that I felt like everyone that came in, they were on my team. Like, we were all on the same team. It wasn't me versus them. It wasn't like, I got to stand here and like speak up for what I want, because it was clear
what you want.
It was clear what I want, you know.
Did your doctor come at that point?
No.
Not yet. Okay. We're going to come back and find out what happens next. Because now you're still 5 centimeters, so there's still some journey to go between this point and when you meet your baby, Tristan. I would love for you to share in the comments some of the things that you did to help get through your labor. What were the comfort measures that were helpful for you? And also the medical comfort measures. Did you do interventions? And for you, how did they go? Did you like them or not like them? Share in the comments below and come back to join Megan for the remainder of her birth story. Welcome to the Real Midwives of Los Angeles. We're back with Megan and Real Midwife Tiffany Gallo. Megan, you mentioned a couple of times that you felt pain in your back during your contractions, and that Ron was really digging in there, and that helped you feel better, which is no doubt what I'll be doing all night starting in about 2 hours tonight, based on the way my client is laboring. Tiffany, what is back labor? Is that a normal sensation for birth, and what causes it, and how do you overcome it?
Right. Back labor is usually associated with an OP position, meaning occiput posterior, meaning that the baby is actually descending down into the pelvis with the face facing upwards, also known as sunny side up, versus the baby's face facing downwards towards your rectum as it's starting to descend through the pelvis.
So instead of looking at mom's spine,
yes,
the baby's skull is against mom's spine.
Exactly, which can make labor much more painful during the contractions of actually more of a bone-to-bone sensation on that lower sacrum.
Does that sound familiar?
I feel it.
Right.
And it's usually pretty apparent when we have an OP presentation, because that mom, every contraction is just like, my back, my back, my back. It's more the back than the contraction or anything else. And even in between contractions sometimes. However, we can have a baby who's not OP with some moms having some back pressure and pain. I usually see it around 4 centimeters, right about where that baby is descending, around 4 centimeters. And then, of course, more back pressure towards the time of having to push.
Pushing.
Yeah.
Are there things when the baby skull's against the spine, are there things you can do to encourage it to flip around the other way?
If we have or suspect an OP presentation, rebozo is an option. Some midwives or care providers or doulas are certified, in rebozo, which is a technique to help shimmy kind of the baby out of that position. Hands and knees position is very effective. Calling your chiropractor when you're in labor.
If you believe in that kind of thing.
We definitely have our chiropractors come in. They can be lifesavers for mom and help speed up that labor if we can get that baby to turn.
Sometimes when the midwives call me in, I think it's because they also want to get adjusted. But
Smart.
not always. Yeah.
Smart.
All right, Megan, you're at the hospital and you get in there thinking, I might need to do some interventions even though it wasn't my plan. And you're getting yourself all open and ready for it. You go to the hospital, which does trigger a little bit of an emotion for you. But it sounds like the way it presents itself, you're like, I'm in charge of this game right here.
Totally.
And that they responded to that
they did.
well. And they said, okay, it's your birth. Tell us what you want. And you got checked and you found out you were 5 centimeters and you got like a whole new energy. What happens next?
So we labor. My timing is a bit blurry.
Fuzzy.
But things kind of stayed the same. They were getting a little more intense. But it basically, they checked me again and I was at 8 centimeters and I got stuck at 8 centimeters.
Well, before we find out about getting stuck, how does 8 sound?
Amazing. I was like, okay. I mean, again, it
more
was
energy.
Exhausting, but like
when you hear good progress,
it was such a feat of like, okay, like my body's working, I'm working, we're working together, we're on the same team. We're baby and I are on the same team. Everyone in this room and, is on the same team. It was powerful. It was so powerful of like, we can do this. We're going to do this. We're going to meet him soon.
I even feel the energy when you're talking about it. Like it's in here right now.
Yeah,
What do you mean when you said you get stuck at 8?
I just wasn't. I think I was at 8 for, was it like a couple hours or something? I don't know. My timing is off, but I just know that I wasn't going into transition. Or I guess I just wasn't progressing from 8 centimeters. And I think because it was of the positioning of how he was. So and anytime we tried hands and knees kind of on the bed, I was just kind of sitting up, which I kind of think maybe that stalled things. But honestly, that was kind of like the most comfortable position I was in. But at that point, I was like, okay, how much longer again can I go?
Right.
And they were like, Tracy was like, I know you really don't want to do this, because anytime I went, they were like, what if you laid on your side? Mm-hmm. And I was like, no, no, I'm not doing that. But again, they were like, I think this will speed it up. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, okay, all right.
And you're all on the same team.
We're all on the same team, but I was not happy about it.
Right.
So they got like an egg shape, the egg.
Oh, the peanut ball.
The peanut ball. Thank
yeah.
you. So we put that in between my legs to help kind of open. And I went from 8 to 10 in about 40 minutes.
Oh, the peanut ball's great.
Yeah. Which was not beautiful to feel. But it was beautiful.
Happened fast.
Beautiful progress.
Beautiful progress.
So you transitioned on the peanut ball.
Yeah. And yelling, and I mean, it was so intense, but it was also, and Alyssa was like in my face, and she was like, look at me, like focus, but it was so.
I get that all the time from her.
But I loved it, and knowing that she had been through 4 births, naturally, like I was like, okay, this woman is like, she's helping me so much, and she knows this. And my husband was amazing. He, like, anytime he kind of, poor guy, he was like so uncomfortable himself.
I feel like my work is cut out for me with him.
Yeah, because I wouldn't let him take pressure off my back.
Yeah,
I was like, you gotta stay there, don't move. And so it was from 8 to 10, and the nurses at that point said, if you feel the urge to push, which again was kind of broke the expectations in my head, because I had heard, don't, some nurses or providers will say, don't push until the doctor's here, right? Like,
oh, and your doctor wasn't there yet?
My doctor wasn't here
yet. Had they called your doctor already?
Yes.
Because you're 10 centimeters.
Yeah. Yeah. They said, but even before that, they were like, while I was in the egg or the peanut thing, they said, if you feel the urge, like, listen to your body. So
that's really cool.
That's great.
Oh my God, you guys are like, yes, thank you. And that was so.
Did you feel the urge to push?
Yeah, I pushed.
So you were pushing on the ball?
On the ball.
All right. I want to find out what happens after that.
Yeah.
But first, Tiffany, what is this magical peanut ball?
It is, it's shaped like a peanut, and it's a ball. So you think of the birth ball that you sit on. So the peanut ball is the same type of fabric, like rubber fabric, and it's the shape of a peanut. And they come in different sizes. So depending on what size the mom is, we can use different sizes. And we actually use one quite often when we have a mom that's a little bit more exhausted, but we want to keep the pelvis open. So we can put them on their side, put the peanut ball between their legs, and it keeps that pelvis nice and open while they're laboring. It's very effective.
Cool. So, I mean, essentially, it seems like it helped you get past your sticking point and let you open up your pelvis enough for the baby to kind of slide down and come through.
Yeah.
All right. We're almost at the end of your journey here, and I can't wait to hear the finale.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to take a quick break. So, come back. Did you use a peanut ball? How did it work for you? Did you get stuck in labor, and how did you get past it? Share in the comments. Like this episode and subscribe to The Real Midwives so you don't miss what happens next. Welcome to The Real Midwives of Los Angeles. We are back with Megan and Real Midwife Tiffany Gallo. Megan, you have been through so many stages of this labor, and now all of us were just talking about how we can like almost feel this baby
We're about
coming
to
in
have a
here.
baby.
Seriously. You're 10 centimeters, you're feeling the urge to push. Your doctor's not there yet, but you're pushing. How does pushing feel to you?
Invigorating. I mean, it was like, so close to the finish line, I guess. I mean, it felt I was exhausted. I was so tired. It was like 23 hours, which to me was so long.
Yeah, you totally go through your playlist so many times.
We listened to the playlist like
Again and
first
again.
8 hour or
Yeah.
however many hours in the hospital.
Did you have a separate push list?
I listened to country. I was like
Oh,
listening
wow.
to the country the
Oh, because
whole
you're from
time.
the South.
And I was just like, there were times where I would sing along and then I would, have a contraction and then, but
I kind of
was-
love in labor when moms are singing along to the music.
yeah,
It's like meditative.
it's like
You sort of,
it was
you
meditative
get lost in it.
because it was just so, it was the most that's a great way of saying.
Well, thanks.
So Dr.
You're a doctor.
My doctor comes in and then people start coming into the room, right? And Alyssa's again like, Megan, focus. All of these people in the
Like
room
nurses
are coming.
and baby,
Yeah.
which is a good sign. They
Which
think
is a good sign.
your baby's coming.
And what I thought that maybe would have given me anxiety. I mean, she was like, all of these people are in the room because you're about to meet your son. And which is true, but again, it was kind of like another bringing me back to focusing on here and not everything else out there. So we got, I sat up and had like the bars to
pull on.
To pull on.
And you're still unmedicated. You're not.
Still
you did not
unmedicated.
do.
Yeah, I
the
did
epidural.
joke like, "Oh, this baby out. I'm in a lot of pain right now." But they were like, "We wouldn't let you do that at this point anyway. So like, you're doing this." And my doctor was like, "No, you're doing this, and you're ready for this, and you got this."
Mm-hmm.
And
she's energy.
She
She's
was super energy.
small but mighty.
Yeah, and she was like, we're about to meet your son," and she turned to Ron and was like, "Do you want to help deliver your baby?" Another unexpected thing, but he was like, "Hell yeah, I want to do this." And it surprised me because he's a little squeamish. Like,
Oh, really?
he's not, he's not like the medical guy. But he got all scrubbed up, and I used a mirror, which I didn't think I was going to use a mirror, but that was really motivating for me to help kind of see the progress.
Could you see
Yeah.
on your pushes the baby's head
Yeah.
coming?
Yeah. So Ron got all scrubbed up, and mind you, like in between contractions, I'm like, "Oh my God, you're so hot in scrubs." And my doctor was like, "Yeah, you really should. Besides the flip flops, like you should just like go around to people's room. Like you look great as a doctor." And so that felt good to laugh, like in the most intense moment. But I think I pushed for about an hour, and I'm tired of just thinking about it, just giving all my might. I was giving everything I had, and Tristan would crown, and Ron actually felt his heartbeat the first time by feeling his head, but he would kind of go back
he'd
in.
come
So he
out
would
during the
crown
push
and go
and
back
then
in.
come back.
Crown and go back
Uh-huh.
in. And he had like a 14 centimeter head, I guess.
Ooh.
So it was a
Healthy.
healthy boy. But I just didn't have anything left in me. So and his heart rate was starting to drop a little bit. And I didn't at that point think like, I don't know how I could push any harder than I am. So she was like, "Okay, Megan, I usually don't do that." And she had told me this before, but she was like, I do want to do an episiotomy because I'm afraid that you would tear even more and it would be more damage if we continue to have you do this, and his heart rate is dropping some, and we need to get this baby out." And where maybe initially that would have been like, no interventions, I was welcomed it.
Yeah,
I was like,
bring it.
bring it on. Let's do, like, please help me.
Hmm.
And I didn't like to hear that his heart rate was dropping because I had
Sure.
been in that position for long enough.
Mhm.
So we did that, and then Ron helped catch him.
What did it feel like when you had the episiotomy? Were you aware?
She gave me lidocaine, and it was
Oh, a
like,
little injection.
yeah, like it was stinging, but it was like, frankly, in comparison to everything else, it was like cool.
I
Like,
only ask that because a lot of women who I meet who are fearful of birth
yeah,
are fearful of pushing, are
Mhm.
fearful of the baby coming through, and are
Mhm.
fearful of the episiotomy.
yeah,
But then women who I talk to have been through birth actually, for the most part, feel exhilarated during
it
pushing.
was.
Like, this is my active time. You feel
Yeah.
good during pushing. And with the episiotomy, not what it seems like it's going to feel like.
No, like it was minimal. It wasn't scary.
And at that moment, the baby's head comes through, some burning.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
various degrees. Some people say a lot
Exactly.
of burning. Some people say not so
Yeah.
much burning.
And it was. I mean,
So
there was.
how soon after the episiotomy did the baby come out?
It seemed like minutes. I mean,
Quick.
it seemed super quick. It was. I was very happy.
And Ron caught your baby.
Ron caught
So the
him.
first thing Tristan saw was his hot doctor,
Yeah.
who's not really a doctor.
Right.
He just plays
But
one.
we'll pretend.
Yeah.
So, and he, he was immediately put on my chest, skin to skin, and it's just the most amazing thing ever. Alyssa took pictures during it, so we have,
We have pictures.
yeah, we have pictures. Incredible. I mean, it's just, and Ron cut the umbilical cord, again, something he wasn't thinking that he would do, but
Squeamish Ron.
yeah, but he did it. And
How did you feel about yourself when that baby was on your chest?
just
I mean, you had so much
like I could do
buildup.
anything.
Yeah. You could do anything.
Yeah, I mean, Ron, we didn't, like, I went into labor. He, faster, like, he found this t-shirt that said, that he wanted to give me, but, like, we couldn't get it Amazon Primed fast enough.
Really?
But but it said, like, your wife, and it had, like, a stick figure of, like, like the restroom sign, the woman,
yeah.
in the little dress. And then on the other side, it said my wife, and then it was like the Wonder Woman with the cape.
Uh-huh.
And I felt like that. I still feel like that. Of it's having a baby isn't easy afterwards. It's a huge adjustment, and yet it's like the most beautiful, amazing thing I've ever experienced. But it's always so cool to to look back and think the progress, right? It's all relative. And when I think back of like doing something that other people believe that I could do, but I questioned if I could do it. And everything about the birth went how I wanted. And it'll forever be ingrained, in my memory. I feel it, obviously. Just, I'm back there right now, kind of in my head of just thinking how powerful. And I just hope, other women can experience that joy and that even the intensity. It's, people always say, or like moms always say, like, there's nothing like it. I'm a therapist. I'm very empathetic. I feel a lot, but I didn't feel it to my core until like I had Tristan.
I gotta tell you, after like the third time I met you,
Yeah.
I felt like you were a Wonder Woman already when you shared a lot about your history and your journey and how you even came to where you were
Thank you.
during the pregnancy. But I have one question, one thing that pops out in my mind, and then
Yeah.
also a question for Tiffany. The thing that pops out in my mind, there's this old episode of Lost and I didn't watch too many of them, but I think Mr. Locke is walking through the woods with Charlie, and they're talking about something, and they come across this little cocoon,
Yeah.
and there's a butterfly inside. She's trying to, like, all fully formed and trying to get out, and she's flapping her wings ferociously and just made this little hole. And Charlie, he feels bad for her. He wants to take out his knife and cut it open. And Mr. Locke says, no, don't do that. She needs to keep flapping her wings until she's strong enough to get out on her own, or she won't be able to survive on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I feel like the birth that takes place,
Yeah.
that power that you're describing and bringing into the room right now, is sort of the birth of the baby and also the birth of the
Birthing
mother.
into being a mommy. I mean,
yeah,
it
the
is.
transformation
It
is
is.
unbelievable.
Yeah.
So even though we did cut the cocoon a little bit. So that was the other question I wanted to know, which is, at home, if you end up in a situation like that, what tools do midwives have that they can use to try to, because at the hospital there's a whole host of tools, vacuums and forceps and
Right.
episiotomies. What
Right.
kind of things can you do at home?
In that situation, if the baby was having what we call decelerations of the heart rate, we would and we could actually cut a episiotomy as well. And then we also can move moms around into different positions that are really helpful. Our moms don't birth in a medical bed with stirrups, so they can be in any position. So sometimes putting a mom on hands and knees if we see a baby's head's having a hard time descending all the way, just changing position can help. And sometimes that can change the heart rate as well. But we do have we can administer an episiotomy as well if needed. It's just not very common, but it sounds like your physician made the right call.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
also, I don't
absolutely.
think it's very
Yeah.
common for her either.
It wasn't, and she
Yeah.
told me that before,
Mhm.
but
But I think all those medical
I'm fine with
interventions,
it,
they're
yeah.
great when we use them,
Right.
sparingly and at the right time, and not
Absolutely.
great when we overuse them. It's a
Right.
hard balance. If you don't mind coming back one more time, I want to find out just how the next 3 weeks went
Yeah.
for you, just how your postpartum transition
Yeah.
is going. Thank you so much for sharing so
Thank you.
openly. Join with us, and if you have comments to share about your birth or your transformation, share them in the comments below. We really do want to read them and be more communal. Come back for one more episode with Megan on The Real Midwives of Los Angeles. Welcome back to The Real Midwives of Los Angeles. We are in our final episode with Megan until you maybe become a doula,
yeah, that's my next.
which you talked
my
about
next journey.
earlier, right? And do you feel more strongly about that now?
Absolutely.
You do.
Yeah, I definitely.
I said
do.
it earlier, and I still think you're going to make an amazing doula. And it wouldn't surprise me if you didn't keep going like Tiffany, our real midwife of Los Angeles, and become a midwife or more.
Awesome.
I just wanted to touch base with you and see how things went after the birth.
Yeah.
The baby's only 3 weeks old. It's
Yeah.
still really new. And then, it sort of feels like once you have that epic whole journey that you described and you finally get that baby out and it's on your chest, I feel like the next thing that should happen is like you just go to Disneyland on
Right?
vacation, but you can't because
Then the real work begins.
Exactly.
Little did I know.
How's it been?
It's been great and it's been hard. It's amazing. It was great going home. I mean, it was great, great coming back to our home with our baby, driving home, walking out of the hospital, or actually in a wheelchair.
Really? You
Yeah,
got
I didn't
wheeled
walk.
out.
He didn't let me.
It's
They didn't let
policy.
me walk. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want to though. But so, being home, it's a big transition. It's a transition for me and him for, I'm breastfeeding. So that
How's
was,
breastfeeding going?
it's going great. I'm a milk machine. I have
Oh.
so much milk, which is great. But it was a little challenging initially.
When you say milk machine, like too much
Just
milk?
so much milk.
Mm.
And milk came in like the third day. And so we had a lactation consultant come to the house and help, just kind of make sure we were,
Don't drown the baby?
yeah.
Okay.
But now we're in a rhythm and it's great. I love it. I love breastfeeding him, and it's just the sweetest, his little coos and his little sounds and the way he looks up. It's just the sweetest thing ever. My mom, like I mentioned, she was, in town and just left this past Wednesday. So she was pretty much here for 3 weeks,
Helping you out?
which was awesome. My sister came out, Ron's parents came out.
Does
And
everybody get along?
yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
really nice.
they do.
Random.
Yeah, I know. It's really nice. So, excuse me. So that's been critical to have help and support during that time. I can't imagine doing this by myself.
Well, you must have been so
Physically,
exhausted after the baby
yeah,
finally arrived.
yeah, exactly.
And you don't really get to sleep long blocks.
No,
So
no.
you really got to take advantage of the little
Yeah.
blocks you got.
So we had, and Ron had about 2.5 weeks off of work,
Oh, that's really nice too.
which was great. Wasn't long enough for any of us,
Welcome
but
to
it was,
America.
I know,
Yeah.
but so happy that he had that time. We had our first 2 days alone last week, just me, Tristan, and Cooper, our dog. So navigating, how to make sure both babies are
How'd the
okay.
dog respond to the baby?
So protective and so
Mhm.
loving, and I think he's a little depressed of like not being number one anymore,
Uh-huh.
but like he's
That's how I felt when we had our baby.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's true.
But he, when I'm feeding him, Cooper will just like lay right next to me. If Tristan starts crying, he'll go over, sniff him, make sure that everything's okay.
Oh,
And
so sweet.
so he's
Been your dog,
yeah,
right, before you got married.
yeah, yeah. So, but it's, and I think it was real confidence boosting of like this past Thursday and Friday of knowing that we made it through the day, of like having super low expectations of like, okay, the goal is feed the baby, feed myself, feed Cooper, and take him out. And that was pretty much it.
Yeah, that's a full menu for
Yeah.
for the
But
what
we
you have.
ended up we went on a walk, all of us.
That's really nice. You read a lot of books
Yeah.
about, which is I think really rare, about what happens after the baby comes.
Yeah.
Do you feel like they prepared you well for this?
Some, but I've been so tired that I haven't really.
You're not getting pop-ups?
No.
No.
Some, but I've read so much about like pregnancy and birth that I did read some books for after, but it was more so kind of like when they're a bit older.
Oh, I see. Not for this.
Yeah,
emotion.
although some, like we did Alyssa's workshop and that, like the afterbirth workshop, which was really helpful.
Yeah.
But I think Ron and I have been good about communicating and affection and, just reminding that we're on the same team and we both, like, this is a new experience for both of us and we're both trying to figure it out.
Yeah, it sounds really level-headed.
Tiffany,
how's transition usually for people? One of the things that strikes me about midwifery care versus medical care is typically, when are you supposed to see your doctor next?
6 weeks.
6 weeks, but midwives tend to pop in a lot.
Yeah, that postpartum support's very different within the midwifery scope of care. I see my patients if they're delivering at home or at the birth center. I see them in a 24 to 36 hours after they deliver at home. I come do a home visit, and then I see them at 1 week, 3 weeks, and 6 weeks.
Wow.
And so they get an hour appointment
Each time.
That's to help,
amazing.
and then we're on call 24/7 for any lactation or any other support that they may need.
Yeah, and you did lactation also before you
Yes.
became a midwife,
Yes,
so
I did.
you're
That's great.
multi-talented.
Yeah, so we just
Big
make
tool
sure that they're
belt.
fully supported all the way around.
Yeah.
So if they have
What are
any
some of the
questions-
harder things that people have outside of breastfeeding, which I think is usually I think a little bit more of a learning curve than it has
Yeah.
been for you. But you're a
Yeah.
milk machine.
Right.
Yeah.
So, when that happens, are there just different ways to hold the baby and feed the baby?
I'm sorry for an
For
overproduction.
overproducing milk, yeah. Or
Usually it will regulate though. So women tend to a lot of times think they have an overproduction, but their milk probably hasn't regulated yet. That takes a couple weeks
Mhm.
to regulate, and usually it will. If not, I tell moms, go ahead, pump and store.
Mhm.
You can have an abundance of milk for, down the line.
It lasts in the
if you
freezer
need
for
it.
a while, right?
I'm sorry?
How long does it last in the freezer?
In a regular freezer, about 6 months, and then you can get up to a year in a deep freeze.
And there are also milk banks if you
There's
make
our
too much milk.
banks,
I've been
right?
using this thing called a milk saver.
What's that?
It's like a little plastic kind of container with a hole for your nipple to put on the breast that you're not feeding from.
Oh,
So it collects like the leaking
a little drip
milk.
from the other side.
The letdown.
The letdown.
Yeah, off the other side.
So I
brilliant.
have like over 120 ounces of milk.
Of just letdown milk?
Yeah.
Well, that is not a letdown.
Yeah.
See?
No. So that's I've like pumped for the first time today and actually gave him a bottle for the first time. We're just gonna go do like a couple bottles a week
So
right
it takes
now.
some of the pressure off of you.
Yeah.
It does.
But it was nice.
And I bet
he-
Ron is going to enjoy giving those
Yeah,
bottles.
I got some pictures of that too
Oh,
today.
very cool.
So,
We'll share with
yeah.
the group. All right, Tiffany, thank you a million times over for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
From your website is purebirths.com.
Correct.
Your center is awesome. I still have to get down there. And do you have any final postpartum tips? Just a solid take-home postpartum tip, because Megan seems to be faring pretty well.
She's doing excellent. Take one day at a time.
Yeah.
Right? I think in our culture, we're supposed to hop right back into our day-to-day and know exactly what to do and when to do it. And just be patient with yourself. And especially for first-time moms, your baby's never done this before and you've never done this before. So give yourself a lot of time and patience and take it slow. Take it really slow. You have the rest of the time to do the dishes and do laundry and all of that can sit and wait for you.
Yeah, definitely.
And Megan, thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey with us from really the beginning and sharing so openly about your whole history and how you came to be you. And also the sensitivities and vulnerabilities that you had during pregnancy as you explored all your different options. I mean, it was a long way. And I remember you came on the podcast with Dr. Hill, and you sort of went from I can't do it at a hospital to I'm not sure I'm safe, I feel safe at home.
Yeah.
And then just really supporting yourself and surrounding yourself with what sounded like the exact dream team of supporters that you needed behind you.
Yeah, it really was.
So really touching story. I don't usually cry in the studio, and you got me. So thank you again for sharing.
Thank you for
I
having
bet
me.
we'll touch base with you in 6 months or so and
Yeah.
see what's happening. Who knows, by then you might already be on your doula journey. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Join our program by subscribing to the channel so you don't miss an episode. And also, what's your postpartum tip? Do you have something that you'd like to share? Put it in the comments below. Thanks for listening to the Informed Pregnancy Podcast. This has been the audio from an episode of The Real Midwives of Los Angeles. Catch all the episodes of The Real Midwives of Los Angeles, including celebrity birth stories and a growing library of expert Q&A at therealmidwives.com or youtube.com/therealmidwives.